Hello everyone and welcome to Don't Be Bored. Today I'm going over games you should play before Terraforming Mars just to make it a little bit easier. I often sort of see people say, well, this is a big game, you know, maybe that's put them off. Well, maybe play smaller games first to get some of the base mechanics and logics into your head, and then actually it becomes a slightly easier game to play. And here's 5 games that I think can help step you up towards it. At number 5 is Splendor. Now you might be thinking, what is sort of a gem market anything to do with actually terraforming a planet in space? Well, it's the engine building side of Splendor that just gets your head starting to roll in the right direction. Now what I mean by that is in Splendor you are building up these sort of pools of gems. You then use a gem to buy a card. That card might have points on it, but it might also have a gem, or probably will have a gemstone. That means in the future, that is a discount to you when you're buying cards. So as you have more cards, more stuff in the market becomes cheaper. And that's how you sort of build up your engine. And well, in Splendor, there's very much the opportunity to go, right, I'm just going to get a lot of little cards that don't cost much, that make the bigger stuff a lot cheaper, and by the end of the game, maybe you're even taking cards for free. Now there's some logics in Terraforming Mars that use that. Maybe you're building up a titanium resource that's going to make a card with a certain symbol on it for free, or at least cheaper. But it's the idea of building up an engine, and when do you stop building that engine and when do you use it to gain points that might be helpful in Terraforming Mars. Splendor's also a fantastic game, so it's well worth playing. Number 4 is Gizmos, and this very much builds upon that engine building logic of Splendor. It's not quite as streamlined, and that's why it's maybe a bit better, as there's different things your engine can do. It doesn't just necessarily make one thing cheaper, but you're getting these marbles, which are a resource that you kind of need to manage, and you're then utilising them to gain cards which upgrade, or gizmos that upgrade you, sort of thing, and your player board. Again, a bit like with Splendor, the idea is you're building that engine, but it's just maybe a slight step up, as it's not just discounts on future cards, it's things that you can actually do in the game, be that taking colours or whatever from the central marble dropper dispensary thing. Gizmos is just that engine building goodness that will get you in the right mindset of maybe resources and engine building to do different things. That's a nice step towards the engine building that actually is in Terraforming Mars. Number 3 is a drafting game, and well, you might think first of all, Terraforming Mars doesn't necessarily by default have drafting in it, and it doesn't. But you're going to want to, at least by game 2, start introducing the drafting mechanic for cards. So 7 Wonders is a fantastic drafting game that, well, helps you learn that sort of process. You could go for a more simple one like Sushi Go, but with 7 Wonders you have that slightly more complexity in terms of maybe if I've played this card is going to be free, or I could maybe utilise these resources, much like in Terraforming Mars, where sometimes you are playing these cards to say, alright, I'm now generating this many resources each generation, this card is giving me a 1- cost on all other cards. So there's some similarities there that you're going to sort of get, and well, once you've played a game of Terraforming Mars, I really do think you should use the drafting, because otherwise one player can draw 10 cards at the start of the game and they be really nicely balanced hand to start playing and generating resources. Whereas another player might be looking at their hand full of really high cost cards that they can only really afford to play one of, but get quite a lot only of that one resource being generated in the future. Or maybe it's only cards that are going to give them points, and at the start of a Terraforming Mars game you're caring more about building up your engine of resources and money rather than points. They need to come towards the middle and end of the game. So 7 Wonders is a great sort of experience to just teach that drafting of, well, these are the cards you could be choosing this round, take one, pass the rest on, and you'll get some from the next player that's doing the same. And, well, drafting is always good fun, and 7 Wonders is very highly regarded as one of the better ones. So a great game to give a go, and also it will help you when you need to do the drafting actually in Terraforming Mars. Number 2 is one of my favourite tile placement games. In fact, it is my favourite tile placement game, and it kind of works as a sort of introduction to that mechanic, and this is Carcasson. In Carcasson, you are placing these tiles down, building out a grid with some restrictions, such as you can't put just a open field next to an open bit of city. You need to sort of fence that city off or wall that city off, and then it's scoring you points, and the different things on the map are going to score you different points. So cities are going to be worth more than the roads, and then there's farms and everything that you can, and monasteries that you can pay attention to. Now, why is this important? Well, a big thing of Terraforming Mars is building on Mars itself, and then with the restrictions, like only certain sections can have the water sort of going on them, and there's bonuses that are going to trigger. And, well, when you build next to water, something triggers. So it just gets you in the mindset of placing tiles, certain things needing to go near other things. Different things like cities score points sort of very differently from the greenery tiles that you're going to be adding down onto the planet of Terraforming Mars. So there's some logics there, and it's a nice super simple, Carcasson is a nice super simple tile placement game that everyone should play, so why not put it on this list? As a little bit of a step up, a bit like from Splendor to Gizmos, well, you've got from Carcasson over to Acropolis. It's not necessarily that much more difficult, though there is a sort of advanced rule set allowing you to make it a little bit harder, but this is much more about using hexagonal tiles, and again the idea that different tiles are worth different amounts and want to be in different sort of configurations. For instance, there's one type of tile in Acropolis which won't score you if it's next to a same type. Now, in Terraforming Mars, you can't put a city next to another city, at least not by default. There are some cards that allow you to get around that sort of stuff. So there's the idea and the spatial awareness of building the tiles of Acropolis that can sort of transfer over into Terraforming Mars as you are building out onto a central map. Now the difference here is that in Acropolis you are building out your own map, but maybe like in Carcasson you are in Terraforming Mars building all on one map together. So take a little bit sort of from one or the other, and to be honest, there's a top 5, but these 5 aren't necessarily in any order. But with them, you will sort of learn some of the core understandings that will go into a Terraforming Mars game. You'll have drafted cards. You'll have placed tiles that have different scoring effects. You'll have used hexagonal tiles, again with placement rules for the scoring that you need to pay attention to, and some limitations and that sort of thing. And with Carcasson, you'll have played all on one board, so you're impacting with what others do as well. Then on the other side of things, you've got like that engine building with Splendor making stuff cheaper. So you've got that logic of, right, at some point I need to stop building, making things cheaper, and start getting points. And then you'll also have got sort of with Gizmos, the idea that in sometimes you'll be building something not necessarily to make stuff cheaper, but to give you a different action that only you can do. Terraforming Mars gives you plenty of that, because in Terraforming Mars you'll be placing on a central map of Mars these tiles that do different things, score differently, raise oxygen. You'll be getting resources that you need to manage, paying for cards, playing them, activating certain abilities that only you can now do because you've played that card and drafted it earlier. And yeah, you're still going to go into Terraforming Mars with a lot to learn, but you'll at least go into it understanding some of the real core concepts of tile placement, drafting and engine building. You won't be just thrown in the deep end. It'll still be not exactly the shallow end, but you'll have experienced the shallow end via these games, and hopefully it'll let you tread water and enjoy your first play of Terraforming Mars. Let me know in the comment section below what game you would advise people that, well, you want to play Terraforming Mars, maybe play this one first just to get an understanding of one of the core mechanics. Let us know, and hopefully that will help other people out there as well. And until next time, have a terraformingly good day.